Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Oh yeah. Do 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 do. If you look into your heart with a positive mind, take self-inventory of your woman and your glory, leave the bad things behind. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you how I, Terri Rose Lee Buford, stepped on this stage to tell you my story. Now, when Jenny Pratt asked me to be a part of this evening, I thought immediately, you want me to tell a story? She said, yes, being an officer, and that would be police. I bet you have some interesting stories to tell. I thought, but can I legally tell them? So I said to myself, better stick with telling a story about yourself. Why did I become a police officer? I needed a job. I wanted money, cars, the good life. But I was working in a dead-end job at Couples Rubber Factory, making rubber inner tubes. The factory was closing down, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I heard that the city of St. Louis Police Department was hiring. So I took the test, and I passed. But at that time, you had to know somebody to get hired off the list. I didn't let that stop me. The second time the chance came around, I took the test, moved through the hiring process, and was selected to start in the class for 1998, documented as a class of 98-1. Once I graduated, I worked as a patrolman, a traffic officer, even an academy instructor. I was doing really well and really enjoying my job. Then I did something really stupid. I bought a car from a really good friend. To get the license plates, the owner has to sign the title over to the buyer. Before all that got worked out, while on patrol as a traffic officer, I ran across some plates on a vehicle, took them and threw them on the vehicle. I took my tabs from another vehicle I owned and placed those tabs on the license plates. Now, a tab identifies the month and the year for a specific vehicle. An officer ran the tabs, saw that the tabs didn't belong to the vehicle, and reported me to the Internal Affairs Department, IAD. That is the police that polices the police. Long story short, the department considered that stealing. I found myself at headquarters, seated at a wooden table. Straight across from me were the investigating officers, a tape recorder, and a set of handcuffs. And the Garrity's rights paperwork. My puckered. I had never been in trouble, and I went into survival mode. Instead of just telling them what happened, I lied. And we all know you have to tell a lie the same way every time. An investigation was conducted, and the next thing I knew, I was resigning under charges and could never work for the SLMPD again. A sergeant I had worked with in the district and traffic called me and said, you were Terri Buford when you started, and you will be Terri Buford when this ends. I went back to work at Target part-time, and eventually I took a full-time job working with the Taxi Cab Commission as an agent. A retired sergeant gave me a chance to be in enforcement. One day, while looking through the paper, I saw a position for a police officer at the St. Louis Community College. I had to fill out the application by hand. When I interviewed for the job, I told the committee the complete truth about the city. I wasn't hired. A few months later, I saw the job again listed in the paper. I called. I asked if this was the same job I had interviewed for and was told yes. I was told to try again. The interview committee liked me, but went with the officer who had worked for the college before. I got the job, y'all. And have been there ever since August 10th of 2024. I celebrated 14 years of service with my St. Louis Community College family. I don't really love talking about myself, and telling this story so publicly sure makes me feel some kind of way. But like the sergeant said, I'm still Terri Buford, and there's for me and all of us to learn from this. Now, we received some helpful prompts giving us ideas about what we could talk about. And one of those prompts was, what is your superpower? And I thought, this could be fun. So I looked up some definitions from different sources to stay on track. Per Webster, Oxford, and Wikipedia, just to name a few, a superpower is a special, extraordinary human ability that is greater than what is considered normal. Or you can look at superpowers, they lead you to think of Superman or Batman. Of course, some nations, countries, and companies are superpowers, but that's a completely different story. And I asked myself, Terri, what is your superpower? I couldn't come up with anything. And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. Terri, ask somebody you know. So I took a survey among the people I work with, laugh with, have dinner and drinks with. Survey said, you have a way of walking into a room, reading it, and calming the situation down. Okay, I smiled. Your superpower is getting down to the nitty-gritty and solving the problem. Yep, that's me. You give without expecting. You do for people without expecting anything back. Wow, is that how my friend sees me? I can only speak for me. When you answer a question, you answer it with truthfulness. You are genuine with your answer, even if it's bad. I'm too honest sometimes, friends. Your superpower is loyalty. I can hang my hat on that because I believe in keeping my word. It's the only thing I have. Hands down, your kindness. I don't always see myself as kind, guys, but I'll take it. Communication. You talk with people, not at them. It took me a long time to master that skill, and I'm still working on it. Wow, it is amazing how others view me through their daily lenses. Loyalty, kindness, genuine, unselfish, observant, diligent, a communicator. Let me just say, the woman that stands before you did not see herself as the person described in the above survey. As I kept reflecting on this, I kept thinking, I'm not super. And then those two powerful words came to me, spiritual gifts. So, of course, I looked for the definition of spiritual gifts. Christianity.com definition is, spiritual gifts are special abilities, talents, or capacities given to individual Christians by the Holy Spirit for the purpose of serving God and others within the Christian community. Now, 1 Corinthians 12, verses 8 through 10 talks about wisdom, verses 28 through 20 talks about teachers, and Romans 12, 6 through 8 talks about serving, the capacity to serve others selfishly and meet the practical needs within the church. I know now my spiritual gift is being of service to others. Makes sense and help me understand why being an officer, it makes sense and helps me understand why being an officer is such a good fit for me, and why sharing my story, even though it's hard, is so important because there's something we all can learn. We have to keep serving and using our gifts even when we make mistakes. I wanted to leave you all with this. Be careful not to allow others to abuse your spiritual gifts, and don't you abuse your spiritual gifts. Sometimes I have volunteered to help others out of loyalty just because they had done something for me. That's fine and all, but when I'm tired or I'm not the expert in the subject, I should have said no. Because a lot of times, I have bitten off more than I can chew. Let me explain. Last month, when at the dealership, I observed a verbal argument which could have turned violent between a customer and the employee who was helping me. Now, I stood there listening, ready to act if needed, and insisted on writing my statement to the management. I couldn't just walk away even though I wasn't involved. I was working my second job, one of my second jobs, at the church. Heard a woman explain to one of the pastors she had a job interview and needed a ride. Before I could stop the words from leaving my mouth, I had volunteered to help. Luckily, an alternative ride was found for her. Presently, I am helping out a friend who I work with in a factory that was couples years ago. He's 70 plus years old, had a stroke, and his family takes advantage of him financially. Some days he has called me and just put a nurse, a social worker, even a bank teller on the phone and said, Ms. Buford will help me explain it to her. Of course, in this situation, I want and I need to do everything I can to help him. But wow, how did I get here? I am so grateful to still be serving and learning. And sometimes, like Miss Aretha says, I gotta leave the bad things behind. Now, all y'all sing. If you look into your heart with a positive mind, take some inventory of your woman and your glory, leave the bad things behind.